Hey, love, what if I told you that some of the things that you're feeling in your body, what if they're not just this one muscle that you have to go work on? Or what if what if your digestion wasn't just from something you ate? What if it was all related to your fascia? And what if many of the things that you're stuck on being able to do have a lot to do with your fascia and how you take care of it? Well, I have to be honest. I learned, as I mentioned in this podcast, I learned about fascia and like you cut through it and they just skipped past it. But in the recent years, since I was in college and even since our guest was in college, they have made such massive discoveries about our fascia, and they still are. And that's what's so cool. They're really on the precipice of this amazing, amazing science. And Sue Hitzmann is our guest today. She is the founder of the Melt Method. And y'all, something I love about this is like, I really truly believe in you having the ability, having the agency to go within yourself, to heal yourself, to take action on the things you want to do, to really be the person you want to be in this planet, right? And I'm excited for you to hear how powerful your fascia can be and how much you have the ability to work on it on your own. You don't have to go pay someone to do it. You don't have to like go buy 17 toys till Sunday. Like there's things you can do. She says even with your hands and your feet that take less than 10 minutes, it could change everything. So anyways, I'm really excited for you to understand what fascia is, how freaking powerful it is, and also more about how Sue Hitzmann, our guest, became who she is and what she's up to. It's really inspiring. We just got to the surface. Of how what she's up to and who she is. And I'm really excited because I know many of you know her. And some of you are like, wait, what's fascia? So we're going to dive into all of that for you right after this message.
Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started.
All right, Be It listeners, I have the very special Sue Hitzmann here for you today. I am really excited because while I don't know her personally yet, although we're going to get to know each other well here, and we are going to meet in person probably by the time this comes out. I know many of you are very familiar with who she is. And so I was so excited to have her on the pod because I think it's really fun to bring on people that you are probably studying from, learning from, or wanting to. So Sue, founder of the Melt Method, thanks for being here. Can you tell everyone who you are and how you got here? And if they don't know what you do, we can tell them about that too.
Sure. I am the creator of a self-care method called Melt. My background, I started out in fitness when I was 16 as a group exercise instructor and did that for many years. In fact, I did it up until COVID in live environments always. I got a master's in physiology and anatomy. I'm an exercise scientist. I'm a neurofascial science and research educator. And I basically spend the majority of my life from 18 on, discovering ways to prolong health span, a healthy, active, pain-free life. And in that discovered things that were not, I don't think, obvious in my background because, again, when you start in the fitness industry, you kind of buy in pretty quick to the idea that if you eat right and you exercise, you're going to live an active, healthy, pain-free life. And lots of people who eat right and exercise know that persistent pain is not selective and it can happen to anybody, even people who exercise or eat a healthy diet. So my journey started in just, again, trying to lead an active life myself. And after I got into chronic pain in my late 20s, after over a decade of being in the fitness industry, it veered me out into the healing arts. And I, again, spend most of my time sharing my knowledge and my skills with people to empower people to learn how to care for themselves better so that they too can lead an active, pain-free life as long as possible.
Well, thank you for doing that, because I do, um, I know a lot of people who do the active, healthy, doing all the things. And then like the other day, Brad was like, my heel hurts. And so frustrated. And it's like, why is my heel hurting? And I'm like, well, there's probably 17 reasons, but, it can be really frustrating. And also when you feel like you're doing all the right things and then you have pain, you're kind of like, then why am I doing all of this hard work if I'm not going to be as healthy and young as I want to be? And as soon as you mentioned how long you've been teaching Group X, I was like, oh my gosh, how are her knees doing? How are her hips doing? Because
Amazing.
y'all, like, back in the day, it was like, I remember I was like 14 years old taking jazzercise classes, doing the grapevine with the step and all that stuff.
That was my first certification, was jazzercise. Big shout out to the jazzercise community. Yes.
Yes. But I mean, like, it doesn't matter how well you work out or how much you do, you're like, pain can come, as you mentioned. It doesn't pick and choose. Oh, these are the people will do it. It can be anybody. So I also love that you're focused on self-care, because that people can do it for themselves. I feel like that's so empowering, and especially for people who are in pain, to give them that opportunity to have a control over getting out of pain. Is that something that was like, was that part of how you created your method, or was that something that you found along the way, making it about them?
It's both. I mean, when I was 28 years old, again, I'd been in the fitness industry forever. We're going into the late 90s, and I was at the peak of my fitness career. I had an international best-selling boot camp video. I was doing ESPN fitness and things like that. And much like what you said, one day I woke up and the bottom of my foot hurt me. And it wasn't like any pain I had ever had. I'd sprained ankles, broken bones, accidents, had been, had the flu. And I know pain, right? And pain comes and goes, but this pain was unusual. I didn't have an identifiable source. And when the pain kind of erupted in my body, and all of a sudden it was this body-wide fatigue, I found myself in emotional distress. I sought after doctors and got MRIs and CAT scans. And it started out as plantar fasciitis, and it went all the way down the road of fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, or lupus. And, so at 28, you're like seeing your entire life, kind of saying, is this what my life is going to be like? Am I going to be in pain all the time? And the only thing that doctors really had was medication. Even one doctor said, you know what, I think your problem is you're depressed. Here's some antidepressants. And I was like, well, no crap, I'm depressed. I'm a fitness professional. I'm in pain, no gain. And wait a minute, right? So that really was the transition for me. And the good news for me was that in 1998, Google became a thing. And the first word I typed in was fasciitis, because somebody had called it plantar fasciitis. And I kept thinking, inflamed fascia. Could fascia be related to my pain problems? And if that's the case, there's no exercise for that. And as I learned about fascia and understood its relationship to both pain and how the nervous system reacts, and it really sent me down a road to understanding the other aspects of my body that even with a master's in exercise science, we didn't really talk about fascia or how it related to the nervous system. I didn't really learn that much about the nervous system, right? So that was my first transition. And then after I'd been working with high performance athletes for the majority of my 20s. And when 9/11 happened, I was in New York City, and the rude awakening of post-traumatic stress disorder became a thing where all of a sudden people coming into my practice had no sustainable injuries, but had chronic pain symptoms. And it really made me look at the human body in a different way, saying, my gosh, physical pain from an accident can cause less prolonged pain than having emotional trauma that is consistently inundating your brain with these bad pathways and can really send you down a bad road. And in 2002, a client who had chronic TMJ and migraines that I would treat with my hands, she'd leave and feel better for a week and not have a migraine, but she'd always come back because they keep coming back. And I said, it's something in your environment. And so her words were, well, if you could invent a way for me to do to myself what you do with your magic hands, I'd stay out of your office. And I was like, I don't even know if that's a thing, but I wonder if I could do that. And so I just started playing around with rocks and balls and rollers. And I came up with this idea of taking PVC piping. I wrapped it in bubble wrap. I wrapped it in a yoga blanket and a yoga mat. And I duct taped the thing together. And I started doing these compression techniques just with the light, gentle touch of my hands. And I decompressed my own neck. I knew I did it. I gave it to this gal. And sure enough, she got better faster, stayed out of my office longer. And she said, my husband's got back pain. Do you think you could invent a way for him to work on his back pain? I was like, let me try. And it was just a exploratory time for me. And by 2004, I had helped thousands of people in New York City. And I thought, gosh, I've been in fitness for all this time. I wonder if I could keep people out of my office if I created this proactive way to learn these things before they had pain.
Yeah.
And I started teaching in group environments in 2004. And it was just an explosion. I mean, there were people lining out the door in the fitness realm trying to figure out what this was, developing a language and trying to explain what fascia was, and created a language of it, wrote a book, and now we've got thousands of instructors worldwide who share the method, an app, and a website, and all this other stuff to continue to share the work outside of my practice.
It's so cool. So first, there's a couple things I want to unpack. One, I tell people all the time, like, listen to the questions you're being asked, because they're literally going to guide you to the next thing. Like, someone is like, if you could you do this? I also just love that you're like, you weren't like, oh, if she ever comes back, I'm not going to have a client. You're like, I want people to be pain free. I want them out of my office. So I really love that, because it's like beyond an abundance mindset. It's also like helping people live a wonderful life, which is probably why you got into fitness anyways. So, but one thing we have to unpack before we go into other things, some people are going to want to know what fascia is. So we can just talk about what fascia is and how could it cause this pain that people are feeling that might not have anything to do with a car accident.
Totally. Well, and before I even answer that, when she said that, I remember thinking, well, if I could invent a way, I would be unemployed. Nobody would come to see me. I mean, I remember thinking it, and then I just thought, well, maybe not. And it did the opposite. My practice exploded. I went from seeing 50 people a year to over 500.
Yeah.
Just by getting them out of the office, it gave me more time to see more people.
Yeah.
So what is fascia? Okay, so fascia is a stability system of your body. Under your skin, you have this three-dimensional matrix, primarily made up of collagen and fluids, which stabilizes, supports, and protects everything in your body. It's completely inseparable, head to toe, skin to bone. It's the only system in the entire body that is completely continuous and has no separation to it at all. And what we know about connective tissue is it's doing a lot of things for us. It keeps your skin lifted and toned. It gives your joint shock absorption. It keeps your muscles synergized and connected. But it's also the system that supports, protects every nerve, blood vessel, and cell in your body. So cells need a stable environment to communicate in. And when the environment our cells don't live in is unstable, this is another way to say we're accelerating our aging process. It's not just increasing your chances to pain. It is a primary factor to having dis-ease or disease. It is a system that is trying to stabilize you regardless of your age, activity level, or your mindset, right? It is just, everybody has it. And what recent science is starting to understand is that daily living alters the fluid perfusion in the connective tissue system. And that in turn can alter the collagen matrix. It alters its ability to maintain stability. And that wreaks havoc on your nervous system, because if the neurological aspects of our body aren't stable, you start getting symptoms that seem completely unrelated to, like, your muscles aching or your back feeling stiff. It literally can alter your digestive behavior, your sleep issues, and just your overall sense of well-being. So when I say fascia is the stability system of your body, I'm not just talking about structural stability. I'm talking about emotional, neurological, psychological, chemical, every aspect of stability that we could define. I could relate fascia to every single other system of your body, because it is the system supporting all of the other systems in the body.
So here's, like, of course my brain goes, okay, so we have all these doctors who are like siloed, right? And you've got like issues, and they're looking at you like you're a crazy person, because that was me with my issues. And like, they're like, there's nothing wrong with all these things are fine. And it's like, now I'm going, well, maybe some of that probably was my fascia. And like, you know what I mean? But like, people aren't thinking, oh, I have a digestive issue, I should go look at my fascia as well. You know what I mean? Like,
I do.
You do.
I mean, that happened to me. I'm not kidding. I mean, I started out with plantar fasciitis, and my entire, like, all of a sudden my leg was bothering me, my jaw hurt, I was fatigued all the time. And then it was emotionally, like, I was really thinking, I I'm dying.
Yeah.
Like there's something really wrong with me. And the thing about doctors is you're right. Doctors are, we thank goodness that we have doctors because we need them. And they are practice, but they don't practice prevention, they practice cure. And you're right, they silo, right? If I'm going to be a neurologist, I'm going to know everything about the nervous system. But if you ask me about what foods to eat to maintain my weight, I'm like, I don't know, it's not my thing, right? So and most of them are smoking and they're out of shape too. So, you got to question their own lifestyles. I mean, how many times have you been to a doctor and you're like, you are a fat, out of shape person trying to tell me how to be healthy? Is that really what they're trying to do?
Their
I don't think
response
that's
half the time to people with issues is to lose 10 pounds. And it's like,
okay, you should too.
okay,
and
also like how, and also should they?
Exactly.
But I remember, this is like a side note. I had a girlfriend going through jaw surgery. It's one of the top jaw surgeons in the world. So he sees everything. And I watched him after her surgery go out and have a cigarette. And I'm like, dude, you do surgery on people who have cancer from doing nicotine. So anyways, we're not knocking on the doctors. We've had some on here. I love them too. But it is hard.
We need them.
We need them. You're correct.
But they are isolated in what they know. And for me, I started out again in the fitness industry, understanding about muscles and bones and how to stay fit and active, right? How to be more muscularly toned. I want my shoulders to look nice. I want to be fit. But I think I formed a very early adopted belief that, again, if you ate right and you exercise, that was the recipe to lead an active, healthy life.
Yeah.
But by the time I got to 28, I'd made the cover of Muscle and Fitness magazine. I had international videos and I was in pain.
Yeah.
And that destroyed my mindset. And so when I started learning about fascia, when I was in school, it was considered a passive, inert tissue. It was made up of non-living matter. I remember hearing someone say this. Why would I have non-living matter in my body, right? It's confusing.
Yeah, I remember when I was studying, can't even remember because I switched degrees, but I was definitely in some sort of sports medicine thing. We're doing, our whatever you call it, where you're picking apart a body.
Anatomy.
Thank you. Anatomy, but also
dissection.
Like when you're dissection. Thank you so much. This is how long I've been out of college, everyone. I really hated that class. But what you learn about fascia, but they're just like, okay, just cut right through it. Like
that's it. We would take the fascia and chuck it in the bucket to get to the good stuff. And I was doing exercise science, so I got those bodies after the medical students did. So it was already hacked apart. And that's it, is you get this idea that there are origins and insertions of muscles, and you get this very piecemealed anatomy. But that's what anatomy is. Anatomy is the Latin root is to cut up. To define things. And that's valuable, right? Because if we take things apart, we can then see the separation of things. But if we don't then take a bigger step back and say, well, how did it all stay together? Oh, we chucked that stuff in the bucket. I guess we'll get to it later, right? And you have to wonder, who was it when Vesalius or any of these other people were doing dissections? Were they looking at it and had a student say, what's that? Packing material, and then kept going or something, that it became irrelevant. And the crazy thing about fascia, it is the most abundant material in the entire body that's been the least studied except for the last 25 years. So we have learned more, and it's really because of technology and these incredible researchers who have really uncovered the cellular aspects of fascia, the deeper aspects of what the cells are that produce the collagen, the elastin, the reticular fibers, the hyaluronic acid, the interstitial fluids. We understand the behavior. And in 2019, Carla Stecco, one of the most well-known researchers in the field, discovered a new cell in fascia they're now calling a fasciocyte. So think about that, right? We're 2019 and we're discovering new cells in the human body. So if people think that doctors know everything, it's not true. And anybody who calls themselves a fascia expert or a fascia guru, if I sat with them, I would trump them on whatever they're talking about, okay? Because I feel like I know a lot about connective tissue, but what I can tell you is that we are just at the beginning of understanding how important fascia is to your nervous system, to your lymphatic system, which is part of your immune functions, to how your digestive behavior works, to hormones, to neurotransmitters. It's all related to fascia.
So I'm thinking about this in a couple ways. One, how do we get more people who are not necessarily like, we're still getting people to go lift weights and go do Pilates and go do, like, we're still getting people to actually understand what the modalities of movement are out there are. How do we get them to even hear the word fascia and learn about it? And then the other thing is like, oh my gosh, is this the keys to the youth and making sure my collagen looks good? All of my,
I'm in my 50s.
A doctor's office?
Yeah, I'm in my 50s, right? So I feel like for 50, anytime I'm with people, they're like, "You are not 50." I say, I show you my license. You know what I mean? I'm well in my 50s now. So the thing is, fascia is kind of the fountain of youth within the body, and understanding how the fluid perfusion of fascia adapts from daily living is really the secret to uncovering how to keep cell proliferation going and to keep your body healthy on an internal level. And it is new science, but I feel like, when my book came out in 2013, I got on the Dr. Oz show when he was super popular, and the book became a New York Times bestseller. And I went on this book tour around the country and up into Canada and did 150 different events. And it was transformative to both see the limited amount of knowledge people have and how far we really have to go as a society to gain better health. The pharmaceutical industry is really, and the food industry are very big, massive conglomerates that push down progressive science, progressive research, because there's really not a pill that you can take to heal your fascia or anything. It really comes from daily self-care. And the good news about treating connective tissue is it's very easy to do. And you could just even start by treating your hands and feet, which takes less than 10 minutes a day. And that could help to alleviate compression and unnecessary tension in your neck and low back, make you feel better. Because I can tell you, people who are inactive, when you ask them why they're inactive, because they're tired and they hurt and they don't have time. And I'm like, time, pain, and knowledge are what are hurting America and the world, really. I mean, so we could do better for ourselves, but we have to seek outside of the norm to get that information. And I did that too. Again, I did 10 years, 12 years in fitness and thought I was one of the smartest kids in the room. I was presenting all over the world, doing stuff about anatomy and physiology and movement behavior and biomechanics. And when I learned about fascia and understood it on a cellular level, I disappeared from the fitness industry because I was like, my gosh, I'm teaching people things that aren't true. Not that aren't true, that are incomplete, that aren't quite accurate. And I went 4 years down this rabbit hole to work with researchers to pull that information in and then to develop a technique that took that science and validated that we could do this without drugs, without surgeries, and without expensive tools or gadgets, that just a soft roller and a couple of softballs and a little bit of time and a little bit of awareness could transform your life.
And I mean, I've had the pleasure of experiencing it, understanding it. And this house has balls around all the place, like these little foot rollers. I was like, the chiropractor said I need to massage my foot. And I'm like, open up the Cadillac. Everyone, yes, my Cadillac has a bed. It has like a treasure box. I'm like, open it up. There's like 17 things for your feet in there.
Right. Pick one.
Pick one. And you can do all the things. So, but here's for the cynic, right? Cause there's people like, I think people think it has to be harder than that. I think people think it has to, you know what I mean? They're like, I have to be able to go have an hour and a half massage, or I need to be on a foam roller with my IT band.
Ironing yourself like a shirt. That's the thing though, a tool is just a tool, right? Mm-hmm. If I put a hammer in somebody's hand who is trying to, they might be able to flip the pancake with it, but it's the wrong tool. And if I don't teach somebody how to use a hammer, they could hurt themselves. Right? So just because you use a tool or you watch some, athlete who says this trigger thing, I'm going to jam it into my leg and I'm going to become one with the universe because my leg is going to work better. I'm going to become a better athlete. And we buy into crap and media and the way we're taking information in. There is a lot of experts out there, a lot of gurus, a lot of really smart people apparently who can kind of tell people that they know things, but when you look at the legacy of what they've done or what they're really talking about, it's it's marketing. They're just
Yeah.
marketing something. And I mean, like, look, I run a business too. I'm the owner and founder of Longevity Fitness. I have people who work for me. We are on social media. We do have a marketing campaign. We just created a new website. It all costs money, right? So you have to make money. But when I was first coming out with this idea to trying to share it with people, I mean, for me, I just wanted to help people, but you have to make money to get people to help you to help other people. It's not for free. And people are like, oh yeah, you can just do things free on YouTube. And I'm like, yeah, but who's going to know that I'm out there unless I have a search engine telling, and I'm buying ads and I'm buying key terms, and like, you don't know how Google works then, right? So we can shun people who have products that they're trying to sell, and now you have every gadget. But this is what I think separates Melt from other things, is that it is an education. It's a methodology. There is a systematic process to it. Anybody can do this. It does not matter how old you are, what your pain points are. It just doesn't matter. Everybody has healing cells within them. They are called fibroblasts, and they can specialize themselves for whatever the thing is that's healing or that's hurting you. If you strain a muscle, they'll turn into myofibroblasts. You cut your skin, right? What pulls the skin together? Not your mind, your fascia does that, right? These cells bring it together. So I don't need to, sell something to anybody. This is just a known fact. And anybody who doesn't believe that they have the potential to heal within themselves is actually failing to recognize that now they're a victim of their own body. Because when we have to seek outside of ourselves to heal our problems, we're already one step away from getting there. If I have to always rely on my therapist, I always have to rely on my doctor, on whatever it is, the tool that I have, it limits my ability to just become more aware of what's going on inside my body. And like I said at the beginning, your emotional state, the way you think, your brain is anticipating how you want to move, how you want to be, because of your history, because of habit, because of gestures, right? So our brain is merely just anticipating how we want to move to get through life. And if you're moving with compensatory patterns, it just thinks that that's the way you want to do it. So it's our job to go in and recognize or learn what is compensation and how can I identify common imbalances in my body that many people possess that are left unaddressed, so that I can start to address them and perhaps feel better. That's the thing that is separate, I think, of Melt compared to a lot of things where they're just like, buy this tool and do this thing, and there's pictures, and I'm going to jam it here and I'm going to roll it there. Fascia in your body is a sensitive system. And I think we need to learn to sense and feel ourselves in a more gentle way before we just have at it. And that's how we start, is just gentle.
I think that's, it's like getting through to people that it doesn't have to be 17 other things that you get. I have a fascia person in our coaching group agency, speaking of like the agency that you don't have to go outward. Everything is in you. And she was so frustrated. She's like, Lesley, she's like, I'm really frustrated because this company that I have trained with something else, they're selling all these tools for fascia and they're charging all this money. She's like, you don't even need that. You can use cardboard. Like, you don't even need that. I'm like, I know all of you fascia people have to start telling people that what they're being marketed to, there has to be a draw line in the sand. Like, that's not what you need, everyone. Like, here's what it is. And I think it's just getting that word out there. But it also, the other hard part, and the thing that I love about what you're talking about, is it's getting people to be curious about their own bodies and have the willingness to have a different belief system around what they're capable of and what they need. Right. And that as you're talking, like, we have people here who have these dreams, have these aspirations, and can't take the next step or get stuck on the next step. And it's, I really think it's their mindset that's keeping them stuck. And it's like, I'm stuck. So then their brain's like, we're stuck.
Oh, well, I miss it. Oh, well, right. Well, then that's it. Most people, when they feel stuck, what their brain is doing is it's going back to a past memory about something that they tried and failed. And to me, you're not getting ahead if you don't fail. I mean, I failed so many times, fraud, all sorts of stuff. I could make a list of, well, that wasn't a good idea. But if what you do is constantly realize that you're mostly functioning in the past or you're fearing the future because you don't have the tools. But then again, you're not, like I always say, well, what steps are you taking today to gain those tools so that you can have the things that you want tomorrow? And they're like, well, I don't know, what am I doing, right? So we're not present. And the only way that you can really transform your future is by realizing that nothing happens in the past. You can't fix it, and nothing is happening there. It's over and it's done. The only thing that's important is what you're doing right at this very moment, and the thought process that you have right now, and coming to this place where you realize, am I present or am I not? And you might actually realize that you're reacting to something that's coming at you, not because of what's coming at you, but because your brain has actually experienced this before, right? So the way that the brain works is when danger or information is incoming, your brain is actually going through a process going, well, have we seen this before? Is this something familiar? And the brain's going through the file cabinet going, that's what we're going to do because that's what happened before. And whether it's a relationship or it's trying to get a new job, we have fear around it. And fear will stop you in your tracks because the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. And when we act in fear, we mess stuff up. If you act in love, and I mean that for yourself, I'm loving myself and I'm doing these things to nurture myself so that I can have a better future, everything will go better because you're putting that positive energy out there. And that stuff is real. When you are grumpy and negative in the morning and something goes wrong and you walk out the door that way and everything will go wrong. Everybody's working too slow. Traffic is terrible. Everything smells bad.
Last night, we had some bad news and I was super pissed. And then the dog's collar wouldn't work. And then I got out the door and then this guy yells at me. And then this other person has 4 dogs barking. And I was like, and then I got across the street and I was like, this whole walk can continue to go the way it's going. Like, we're just going to come across 17 more things, or I can take a couple deep breaths. I could put a new song on and we can have a whole different walk experience. And it got so much better. And when I had to come back around to that house, I had 4 dogs barking and the guy was just sitting there letting his dogs bark. They were gone. And I was like, it's like whether or not I manifested them leaving or not, doesn't matter. It's like you, whatever you're going through, whatever your emotions are, your brain's going to seek out all the things to go, yep, you're having a really bad day. Here it keeps going.
Totally.
Well, Sue, you're such a wealth of knowledge. And I really, I feel like our listeners are going to be eager to hear how they can cure themselves and work on their fascia. So where can people find you, follow you, learn about fascia with you? What do you got?
Okay, so they can go to meltmethod.com. And you can find all about Melt and find our streaming platform, Melt On Demand, where you can take live classes with me. There's 300 different videos on pain, performance, and lifestyle. You can also find us at Melt Method on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. We're there everywhere.
Amazing. Okay. Super excited. Brad's going to be doing that as we speak.
And YouTube also, for those of you who are saying, I don't want another product, go to YouTube and type in Melt Method. And there's a whole bunch of do-it-yourself where even if you don't have the Melt products, you can still learn how to do some of the techniques. You don't need the product.
Amazing. Okay. So bold, executable, intrinsic target steps, things people can take to be it till they see it. What do you have for us?
Okay, so this would be my suggestion to anybody is to write down on a piece of paper what I'm really wanting to enhance my life is, and answer the question. And then try to seek out things that elevate you, whether that be, really talking to inspiring friends. Stop looking at the trash talk on your social media pages, scroll on past it, and really start to realize, am I living in the present moment or not? And in this present moment, am I doing things that are healthy and good for me? Am I sipping water frequently? Am I eating water-filled foods? Am I getting out into nature? Do I have positive affirmations? Do you call somebody every once in a while and just call somebody out of the blue and say, I love you, and here's why, right? So bring positivity into your life and try to find those things that elevate you, and you will start to realize that you need to take specific actions to get you to that next place. But you've got to be as present as possible to make it happen. And don't let the past be the thing that limits you on what you could really do in the future.
Oh my goodness. That was amazing. I'm in love with all of those. I really am. Something that I really love, y'all, is to just text people randomly that I love them or I miss them. And and you know, what's so fun is that it always comes at the right time for them. So thank you for mentioning that, because that is key for being present. It's also key for putting out in the world what you want back into it. So Sue Hitzmann, Melt Method. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad we got to meet this way. I'm sure randomly our paths have crossed at different conferences and things like that, but I'm glad I'll get to see you in person at IDEA. And everybody, how are you going to use these Be It action items in your life? Tag the Melt Method so Sue can see them, and tag Be It Pod so we can see them, and let us know. And do us a favor, share this with someone, because if you are inspired by this, if you're like, oh my gosh, my fascia could be in charge of all these things, think about the family members that you have who don't have access to something like this. Just share the episode so that they can be informed. Until next time, everyone, be it till you see it.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day.
Be It Till You See It is a production of As the Crows Fly Media.
It's written, produced, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Kroll. Our associate producer is Amanda Fraterelli.
Kevin Perez at Desenio handles all of our audio editing.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to our designer Jairo Mandal for creating all of our visuals, which you can't see because this is a podcast, and our digital producer Jay Perdoso for editing all the video each week so you can.
And to Angelina Herrico for transcribing each of our episodes so you can find them on our website. And finally, to Meredith Crowell for keeping us all on point and on time.